Mercedes Mone is officially all elite. Needle Wrestling, Robin Lundberg, Gene Cherry, Dave Sepperson. Guys, we knew this was coming, but there it was, the moment in Boston as she made her return. I like the CEO moniker that they went with. I like the crowd chanting that. I thought everything about her presentation was dope. I think it brought the star power that felt a little lacking to me in AEW. The only thing I was lukewarm on was the promo. I didn't think the promo was that great.
Yeah, well, I'll just say this. The fact that Sasha Banks, Mercedes Mone, however you want to call her, is back back in the spotlight on national television. I'm a fan, man. I've been waiting for this, bro. I've been waiting for this. I love Mercedes Mone. She has the it factor that you just don't see it. To me, she's the most captivating female wrestler on the planet. Doesn't matter whether she's in AEW, doesn't matter when she eventually comes back to WWE. She is must-see television as far as the women's division goes. In AEW, they did it right, man. They made sure they got her before she went back to WWE. So you did two things. You bolstered up your roster, and you also kept her away from the big dogs over with Triple H and them. So it's a win for AEW. I'm excited to see where she goes with it, because at the end of the day, like, she's a package. You don't have to build her up. She is there. What you see is what you get. The CEO angle is fire. Like, to me, I didn't see that coming. That is heat. So Tony Khan, just do not mess this up. That's all I ask.
Yeah, major W for AEW, major W for the AEW production team, adding the CEO chants like into the entrance of her music, having the fans so easily understand what to do, and by the end of the promo, like, they're chanting in the crowd for her. Like, they sold it perfectly. They built the, even with like the expectation of knowing she was coming, it still felt like a big moment. It still was exciting. She came off like a superstar, which is what you want. Yeah, there was no downside to me. And Robin, I'll push back. I really liked the promo. I thought, talking about her brother and like the rise in Boston, like connecting to that crowd right away to get them on her side was so smart. Like, it's hard to really mess up Mercedes Mone. She is a superstar, and we've been talking about this for weeks, how incredible she is and how much we're fans of her. So to see her there, and now, like, I just can't wait to see her in the ring and wrestling again, because, like, and that's the best part, is like, you get this moment, and now you have people hooked where you say, okay, now I want to see what her first feud is going to be. Now I want to see what they're going to do next.
Yeah, look, the promo to me was a little bland and dull. I mean, in a sense, it was kind of reminiscent of CM Punk's first WWE promo back. There were some similar notes that were hit there, and I didn't love that either. But I think this was a good marriage for both parties, because AEW needed that star power. I think they really needed to bolster their women's division. Meanwhile, Mercedes, this is a chance for her to stand out, because I'll push back on what Gene said, and I'm a big Sasha Banks fan, and she was my favorite in a point in time. But Rhea Ripley is on a different stratosphere right now.
No, she's not. No, she's not. No, she's not.
I believe she is. But regardless,
Sasha Banks, Mercedes Mone is international, bro. Don't do that.
We just went to Australia.
Hold on. What I mean is, we've seen Sasha Mercedes Mone in other promotions, whereas Rhea Ripley is a WWE product. She has one bag.
That's the biggest place to be. I mean,
hold on. It don't matter. Sasha's already been there, done that. So what are you talking about?
All right, the point I'm trying to make is, in WWE, there is Rhea Ripley, there is Bianca Belair, there is Becky Lynch, there is Charlotte Flair, there is Bayley, there is Io Sky, there is Jade Cargill, down and down the line. In AEW, there is Mercedes Mone. That's like, she is the star. In fact, she might be the biggest star in the company, period. Aside from with MJF, especially on the sideline. So that's what I'm saying. I think it helps them from a star power standpoint, and it allows her, she left in the first place because we didn't know what was exactly going on with her situation. She was in the tag team champion angle at that point in time. She is now the CEO.
All right, first things first. I'm going to squadouche this entire who's bigger. She's in freaking Star Wars. She's one of the biggest properties in the world. That alone puts her on a stratosphere that, honestly, no other wrestler on the planet is on, because that is like one of the biggest properties in the world. So to have your name,
she's bigger than John Cena and The Rock, and
she's a star, Robin. Dude, she is a star.
And you're in Star Wars as a character.
She's in The Mandalorian as a big character that most people don't realize. She's not like name drop.
She's got action figures. She's got merch, dude. That's a big freaking deal. So like, that to me puts her on a level way above anyone else we've named.
So Dave Bautista is bigger than
okay, but you're naming some of the all-time greats that we're now attributing her to.
Exactly, Robbie. You're fighting against your own argument, bro. No, you're not. You're trying to put Rhea Ripley on the same level.
Yes, because Rhea Ripley is bigger right now than
Sasha Rhea Ripley's been
in wrestling. In wrestling, in professional wrestling,
she is
Rhea
not.
Ripley is a bigger deal right
now. That is your WWE bias showing.
WWE is bigger. WWE is bigger, of course. Like there's no bias.
Sasha and everything that Rhea Ripley has done, Sasha did already. She is walking in the footsteps of Sasha Banks. So to say she's bigger. Hold on, she is great. She is great. This isn't someone washed up in her prime. This isn't a has-been we're talking about. But you're saying she's bigger than her now. That's not true.
I believe
that is not true. Because guess what?
I believe right now Rhea Ripley is the biggest women's wrestler on the planet.
You know why I know you're wrong? Because if Sasha Banks had returned to the WWE, she would be bigger than Rhea Ripley. Right? You would say she would. Yes, you would. Yes, you would. 100%. If Sasha Banks came back at Royal Rumble, are you serious? Yes, she would have the number one selling product in WWE right now.
Robin, I understand where you're coming from, but Rhea Ripley is she is being her success is because of her place on the card. If Rhea wasn't if they took Judgment Day away and put her back down, her star diminishes. Like that is just a fact.
No, she carried Judgment Day is a thing because
how do you think she got the mommy nickname, Robin? Dumb. So what are you talking about? Without Judgment Day, she doesn't have that money.
Is mommy merchandise selling? Yes.
Hold on. Because of Dominic nickname, dog. What are you talking about? Who has Sasha Banks done everything on her own,
Rhea
bro?
Ripley is
you cannot attribute
at this point.
You cannot.
I'm not dissing Sasha. I'm not dissing Sasha.
No. You're saying she's a bigger.
This is all like a stupid argument.
Because you're showing your WWE bias by saying she's bigger.
Okay, time out for a second.
Yes, it is.
Time out for a second. Let me praise AEW, right? Like I think AEW is doing. They were in a rut, and I think they're doing things well recently. Okada, I like the way they presented him. I like the way that it felt like something mattered. Will Ospreay, they had him cut a promo last night rather than just go out there and show off his work rate. The Darby Allin spot drew a lot of attention. They did the Sting retirement right. I think AEW is heading in the right direction again. I'm not dissing AEW, but WWE is, by a matter of fact, significantly bigger than AEW.
Who is debating that? Who is debating the status of WWE? Well, no. You're saying Rhea Ripley is bigger than. Stay on point. You're saying Rhea Ripley is bigger than Sasha Banks.
No, you said I was showing WWE bias.
By saying Rhea Ripley is bigger than Sasha Banks. Yes,
I think Rhea Ripley right now is the biggest star on the planet.
Right.
I mean,
you're not. You are wrong.
We're going to have to agree to disagree, and I want to be very clear. We're not putting down Rhea to prop up Sasha or either way. Like they're both incredible stars in their own right, and both are amazing wrestlers. So we are fans of both of them. The argument can be made either way, and this is all opinion at the end.
It's not an argument either way. No. One's international, one's in Star Wars, one's a movie.
You can make an argument about
come on now, what are we doing?
You can make an argument about anything.
Look at the numbers, dog.
I think Mercedes is bigger, but at the end of the day, what we know is they made a good decision to bring in Mercedes Mone, and it is not the first, it's now the third straight big addition by AEW that, quite frankly, WWE missed out on. Okada, Will Ospreay, Mercedes Mone. I think there's an argument to be made that AEW is showing future wrestlers, current WWE superstars, hey, don't re-sign with WWE right away. See what we have to offer money-wise, positions on the card-wise. Like AEW, when they were starting out, had to sign everybody just to get a roster. But they're now, in my opinion, at the spot where they can kind of whittle that roster down. And I don't want to see anyone lose their job, let me be clear. But they can pick and choose who they want to highlight. They have enough of a talent base where now they can say, okay, we don't need to sign everybody. We can sign the people we really want to. And that is going to put them at a really unique advantage.
Let me draw a distinction because they're not competing with WWE. It's not even close. AEW, though, has figured out how to get hot again to grow themselves. And that's what's most important, because if you focus only on WWE, is that it's we did see it happen, I guess, at one point in time with WCW, and we're going to get to Scott Hall a little bit later in the show. So it's possible, but they have so far to go, such a long way to go when you're talking about the Netflix deal that WWE just signed for $5 billion, the attendance numbers that WWE is pulling, the ratings that WWE pulls, the digital revenue, the 100 million YouTube subscribers that WWE has. That gap is a chasm. With that said, they are doing the right things to grow, which I've asked of them to do, which is to go beyond simply appealing to the hardcore fans or match after match after match. The difference here is they are paying more money. They need these free agents more than WWE needs these free agents. I saw the report on what Okada is making, whatever it is, like $5 million. That's got to be in line with what the top guys in WWE made. So I think what you saw was WWE look at what Sasha wanted, and I think it was reported she wanted to be the highest paid woman in wrestling, and more power to her for getting it. But they probably looked at it and said, we have this strong women's division. We don't need to make that expense. Same thing with Will Ospreay. We don't need that. Same thing with Okada. We don't need that. AEW did need that. In order to make it happen, they paid it out. And now both are going to benefit because it does, from a perception standpoint, look like big free agents are choosing AEW. And it also bolsters AEW's roster because if we're talking about the three people we're referencing, Ospreay, Okada, and Monet, those are the three biggest stars in AEW right now with MJF sidelined.
Well, and that's a problem. If I'm WWE, to me as a WWE fan, I can't believe you missed out on all three. I could get if you missed one or two, but you missed out on three big-time free agents. To me, the wrestling community is pretty loud, man. If AEW starts getting any sort of noise, if they start putting up classic matches as well as putting on dope storylines, WWE wrestlers, or when the time comes and these guys become free agents, Tony Khan, you don't want to get into a sit-down meeting with him because he seems like a guy who knows how to close the deal at this point.
He's paying twice as much. I mean, that's
okay. Well, if you're getting in the door, okay. So whose fault is that? Like,
if you look at last week, the numbers for Dynamite went down.
You brought in.
You can't.
I let you talk, Robin. I let you talk. You just said WWE is the biggest company. If you are losing out on, it doesn't seem to matter to these guys if money's involved. Tony Khan can compete when it comes to the pockets. So if you're getting a sit-down interview with this guy, he seems like he can close the deal. That's all I'm saying. And we're not going to see the real impact of these signings for the next 2-3 years. Like, they're not going to win over the fans overnight. But if in 2-3 years you get to keep them, and then WWE contracts start expiring, you're going to start bringing in more and more guys. He's not taking. This is what I appreciate what Tony Khan's doing right now. He's not doing what Eric Bischoff did and just shelling out money to these old dudes. He's getting folks in their prime at their peak. So to me, in 2-3 years, we may really see the impact of this roster. So to me, Triple H, in my opinion, they got to push more of their young talent because NXT has immense talent, but they don't push them as much. And hopefully,
Stratton, though. I mean,
that's one. Okay, that's what she had. Hold on. You didn't know about Tiffany Stratton? What do you mean? Look at Tiffany Stratton. She's not
a free agent. They signed. They can build from within. My point is,
they haven't done it yet, though. So what are you talking about?
These are bigger acquisitions for AEW than they would have been for WWE.
I'm just saying, looking down the line, this is going to be a conversation, especially once contracts start expiring. Because to me, Tony Khan has figured out how to close the deal on the deals that actually matter. WWE was interested in these guys. It's not like Triple H is like, I don't want these guys. You take them. Nah, these were free agents, were on the market, and Tony Khan got them before they got to WWE. So you're taking young talent, and Triple H must be paying attention. The dude's competitive as hell. So to me, once the next free agents start coming out, we're really going to see what's going on. But right now, Tony Khan's 3 for 3, and WWE is going to have to do something. Maybe not now, but in the future for sure.
But Jade Cargill and CM Punk just went to WWE.
Well, Jade Cargill hasn't done anything. What are you talking about?
She's going to.
CM Punk is old and fragile right now. So what are you talking? Those are two bad examples right now.
Listen, Jade Cargill, we all agree that was an L for AEW. CM Punk, as much as it was an L because going to WWE is huge, there was obviously circumstances there that we have to keep in context of why he left. But I think the argument for me is like, yes, WWE is always going to be right now the bigger name. It's got 30 years plus of, or longer than that now, of history behind it. It's been built. AEW is 5 years old, so it's like they're still in their infancy. There's such a long way for that company to go to get to what WWE has. And it's like the MCU, they had that 10-year head start on DC, and DC tried to play catch up so fast that it kind of fumbled. Like, you have to, but the blueprint's there. Like, and I think AEW is doing a good job of saying, like, here's what we can provide. Like, great example. WWE, to me, major L, Swerve Strickland. They released him. Tony Khan scooped him up, made him a massive star. This guy's got all the goods, incredible on the mic, one of the best workers in the world. And they're giving him a position, and they can show that to potential young talent. I'm going to use somebody that I think AEW, when his contract is up, would be a huge get. Would be like a Montez Ford. Let's say he's still languishing and they haven't given him that singles run. A lot of people think Montez has the goods. So if AEW can come along and say, hey, Montez, we want to put you as a singles guy, give you a push, put you in that main event scene. Well, he might be like, okay, that's what I want to hear with the money he can make. And then you could say, hey, I'm sure your wife wants to come with you so you guys can travel together if her contract's up. Now we're bringing in Bianca Belair too. Now you're getting 2 stars. Same thing can happen with, let's say, and Seth Rollins is extremely loyal to WWE. So the odds are he'll never leave.
He ain't going.
But listen, him and Becky have a child. If they want to have more, they might want to be not on the road as much. AEW doesn't tour the way WWE does right now. So they could say you can have more time at home with your family, but still make a very good living together, traveling together. Like, that's 2 more stars they can get. Like, there is a way that like AEW could take some of WWE's talent who are gonna, have contracts come up and start stealing even bigger stars.
But Seth, to me, going there almost is like Edge at a certain point. Like that doesn't really move the needle too much. This requires nuance because here's the thing. I'm in agreement. These are good moves for AEW, and I think AEW is headed in the right direction. But we also cannot ignore the fact how big and massive and red hot WWE is right now. Like, when you say Swerve Strickland is a massive star, no, he's not. He's been good for AEW. He's not a massive star.
If Swerve can't, no, that's an
There
L.
are 10 guys on the WWE roster who are bigger than Swerve.
But here's the thing. No, hold on. So let me hit it real quick. Because if you take this version of Swerve and bring him to WWE, he's bigger than probably 9 of those 10 guys you mentioned right now. Yes, absolutely. He'd be bigger than Seth Rollins right now. This is
the argument, because
that's a fact. He'd be bigger.
You do have to take nuance into it because you're right. Does Swerve Strickland have the name recognition of Gunther or Seth Rollins or these guys? Absolutely not. WWE has that platform. When they position someone, they're getting more eyeballs on them. So obviously they're going to be, quote unquote, a bigger star. But the argument, and this is where I think Gene and I are in agreement, is if you were to take that talent and put them in WWE with the way they're being utilized right now, they're talented enough to be bigger than some of the people that WWE currently have.
Absolutely.
It's opportunity. So yes, the opportunity at AEW is better for him, and it's giving him that platform. And yes, obviously, if WWE were to have utilized him, he would be a quote unquote bigger star at WWE because of the eyeballs. But the argument should work both ways. He can still be a big star at AEW even without the full set of eyeballs on him.
I did my show on this last night, and look, I want to be cognizant and self-aware. I am guilty of. I did a bunch of AEW, WWE little bits, needling AEW fans and getting engagement that way. And I backed off that because I don't want it to come across cheap and petty, because I want both companies to succeed. There's no downside to both companies succeeding. I'm trying to be more invested in AEW and more positive about AEW. In fact, I was at my son at Raj's basketball practice on Monday, and I'm waiting outside. And this was notable to me. One of the women who was waiting for her son was talking about her and another guy, another dad, were talking about how their kids love basketball and wrestling. And I'm like, wow, that's kind of cool, because that's what I talk about a lot, basketball and wrestling. But she referenced AEW. And I was like, that's interesting, because it's a younger kid. I wouldn't expect a younger kid to be watching AEW, if you know what I'm saying, because WWE is more appealing to that demographic, in a sense, targets that demographic more. So is there room for AEW to grow? Yes. Can they do plenty of things right? Yes. But I think the nuance in the conversation is to not be delusional and paint these as huge losses to WWE when that machine is a juggernaut right now.
Sure.
It's a loss in a sense where, well, first of all, that's dope as heck that AEW is getting a young crowd, because obviously that's to me, I thought it was for the older demographic. That's dope. But secondly, I don't think anyone's seen it as an L, but it's something to be mindful of. You can't ignore the noise, is all I'm saying. If you're Triple H, you cannot ignore the fact that AEW is making noise and they are signing big name talent. It's not an L. WWE is going to do what they want. They could always go to The Rock or bring back somebody from the past and do numbers, bring back a Cena. It is what it is. They've got that deep of a bag. But you can't ignore the noise that's happening and how motivated Tony Khan seems to be as far as bringing in young talent. He wants to be relevant, and he is putting his money where his mouth is. And if I'm Triple H, if I'm the WWE, I'm being mindful as far as free agents are concerned. I think you have to. I think you'd be ridiculous to ignore if free agents are available and they're automatically going to AEW. To me,
but Jade Cargill was a free agent who recently.
Well, they haven't done anything with Jade, man.
Yes, we know they're going to. So I mean, it's not
like anything yet, man. It looks like
that was a long time ago. Like that was not very long ago.
It was a long time ago.
It's been like
it's been half a year. It's been half a year. She hasn't done anything. It's been longer than 3 months, Robin. Jade's been in the WWE.
It was probably about 3 months ago.
No, it was closer to half a year.
It was almost last summer.
Yeah, what are we talking about, man? Like she's been around. Like they haven't done anything with it.
September 26th.
Yeah, that's
6 months ago,
March, man.
Yeah, what are we doing?
That's a long time.
I don't know. We're dealing with this thing at SI. Time's all messed up.
I know.
I'm just saying, it's been like half a year. She's been around. They haven't done anything.
I know it's not a major L, but I'm going to sit here and say I do think it's a minor L because here's my thing. Listen, Gunther Sami Zayn is going to be a very good match, but you cannot sit there and tell me that Gunther Okada would not have been a better WrestleMania match if you brought in Okada and positioned him as this huge international signing against Gunther at WrestleMania. That's how you make a massive star even bigger immediately. And so, like, yes,
these are main eventers, man. These are main event talent. These are like some big cards.
You can say to me, yes, he's a big star going to AEW, and he's not. But like, if he had gone to WWE and they positioned him that way, he could have been a big star there too. So like, that's why, like, yes, I understand the argument of like they don't need him. They can always promote a Braun Breaker or you debut an Obafemi, who like all these guys are great and we love and they are very talented. But like the argument is like when you're talking about to fans about like guys who could be coming, like that's always the argument. You're never talking about like, oh, are they going to call up someone from NXT? It's are they going to sign this guy from New Japan? Are they going to bring in this person? Like, like because it's a developmental, we see them on NXT every week. They're already in WWE system. They're on television. It doesn't hit the same way as
that's a preference. Company. That's a preference point of view. I guess really it comes down to this. I don't think WWE wanted them that bad. And because if they did, they could have offered them more. They have the resources to offer them more. They chose not to offer them more. So AEW was offering twice what WWE offered, which shows to me from the outside looking in, they were needed more by AEW than WWE. At least that's how the respective properties proceed.
You could say that. I could say they fumbled because if they go on, if AEW gets better because of this, and all your because I didn't even think about that. Okada versus Gunther at WrestleMania, to me, that sounds like that's money, bro. Like to me, that's better than
they thought it was going to be Brock and Gunther, which would be bigger than Okada.
Well, fair. Yeah. But still, down the line, you put him on the roster with Gunther. These are two physically dominant dudes, man. That would have been fire. To me, like AEW did what they were supposed to do. I don't know, man. Like to me, like I said earlier, we're really going to see the impact of these signings in like the next 2 or 3 years because AEW could probably, and the way they've already booked them as far as matches, promos. I know we're going to talk about Will Ospreay soon. They've done their job so far. They haven't fumbled yet. They haven't. It seems like they're being very intentional with their signings, with how they're booking, and it's good for all around as a wrestling fan. This is going to be dope.
Well, I think maybe the biggest free agent or the biggest hire they may have made, they brought over the writer who had a close relationship with Sasha, with Mercedes Mone. I'm looking for her name. Peppermint. Jennifer Peppermint. Yeah. So, which is what I think AEW needed more than anything else. To be honest with you, it wasn't a great wrestler. It wasn't anything else. It was like direction and stories and angles and stakes. And that because for the most part, a lot of times I would watch and it just felt like, oh, random match after random match after random match. What's the point? And now you're starting to see that be developed a little bit where you have Okada join up with the Elite, where you have Mercedes have this CEO moniker, and where you have Will Ospreay come out and cut a promo, right? Rather than just go out and have a 45-minute match that I hate even using words like this, but, like the marks or whatever would, nerd out over that kind of thing, because that's the stuff that's going to stick. You can talk about, there are great matches and there's always been great matches, but the things that people remember forever are those promos, those catchphrases. Oh yeah, what you gonna do, brother? Austin 316. It doesn't matter what these are the things that people remember for the rest of their lives and will recite at any given time. And I think that's the thing that AEW had been missing. I get where they wanted to carve out their niche, but in order to make that niche bigger, to open up the tent to more people, that's what they needed to do.
I agree with you, bruv. And speaking of bruv, man, Will Ospreay, he killed it. Like that promo was so powerful. It made me like, to me, a great promo is not just about having a moment. It's about getting me to want to watch you wrestle. And like, it made me want to buy that pay-per-view to see Ospreay Danielson. I was like invested in like, wow, I cannot wait for that match. And that is what a true great promo does. It sells a match. And he did that. He sold himself. He sold his opponent. He sold what this match is going to be about. Like, and I will say, having that show in Boston, fan reaction we talk about it is so important. That crowd last night was so amazing. They made everything, that show top to bottom was incredible, but they made everything feel bigger. They made that promo feel bigger than it probably even was, and it was already incredible. Like, he is got everything. We talk about like guys who could do it all in the ring. Now we know he can do it in the ring. He can cut a promo. He's international. It's like, he's going to have fans all over the world. Like, AEW could not have done a better job positioning him against Bryan Danielson and in a match that I think everybody's going to want to see.
Well, I'll just say this. Will Ospreay, there's a reason why people regard him as the best wrestler on the planet. But last night, he impressed me with that promo, man, because it's like, okay, this dude can, like you said, he could sell a story. And you put that as well, you put that on top of his wrestling ability, you got yourself the complete package. To me, this dude is a megastar. He is going to flourish. Him, Bryan Danielson, like, to me, that was the first time I really paid attention to him talk. I heard when he first signed, like, I was like, all right, that was cool. That was hype. It is what it is. But last night was like this. I didn't know he had it like that. I was not familiar with his game. I'll be the first to admit that was dope. And like you said, that crowd, I know we say it in sports all the time. That was like a playoff atmosphere, that Boston crowd, man. Like, they were lit last night. And everyone showed up. AEW, to me, they've got their game faces on. And what I'm most surprised with is normally in the past, during WrestleMania season, you kind of see other companies kind of like, all right, let's WWE have their moment. It is what it is. We're not going to do too much things to kind of rattle the cages or whatever. It seems like AEW is like, they ready. Like, we don't care if it's WrestleMania season. We're still going to be putting out dope product for the fans to enjoy. And the fact that on a Wednesday night, it's not Raw, it's not SmackDown, AEW, they rose to the occasion and they put on an incredible show with some of their top hitters. And Will Ospreay showed why he's regarded as, if not the best wrestler on the planet last night. And that was dope.
To be fair, neither Raw nor SmackDown air on Wednesday night.
It don't matter. I'm just saying, no one's talking, but we still talk about them. We still talk about them. We still talk about Raw and SmackDown.
What did he say? He said restore the feeling, right? And I think that's a pretty good segue toward, it's been 2 years since the death of Scott Hall. What really that feeling was, and I think part of this energy with AEW is a small part of it. Other part of it is the kind of fan they're appealing to. But the fact that you can say AEW versus WWE, when wrestling was at its apex, I'm thinking like of 3 moments. One of them is right now. I think we're in a golden age right now. Another one is Hulk Hogan slamming Andre the Giant. And that is what I think, opened professional wrestling to the masses. And then the third is the Attitude Era and the NWO. And the NWO, if you recall, and I remember watching this in real time, guys. I watched the A&E documentary about this the other day, but I remember watching it in real time. When you saw Scott Hall and Kevin Nash show up on Nitro, and you were like, what are Razor Ramon and Diesel doing on Nitro? Because these guys, Gina, you might be a little young for this. These guys were fresh off of being like big deals in WWE. They weren't small bit players. Diesel was the champion. He was going head to head with Shawn Michaels in main events. And Razor, had the ladder matches with Shawn and was one of the most iconic characters. The vignettes. It's funny we talk about Vince McMahon, but they go back and everything that's happened since. But you could see it when Scott Hall's recounting this story about how Vince McMahon, it was important to him to produce these vignettes. That's the magnitude of that character at the time and what they thought of him. And all that stuff that Razor Ramon brought to the table. But when you saw him show up on Nitro, you were like, what the hell is happening? And they sort of played into the reality of the situation and made it look like a WWF at the time takeover of WCW. And he's really the match that lit the flame of the NWO.
Yeah, the words you know who we are, but you don't know why we're here, are ingrained in my brain. I will never forget that moment. And it's just like, what is happening? It was such a influential moment in wrestling history that like I lived through it, and we lived through it, and you know, in the moment I didn't recognize it, but now you look back and you're like, wow, these guys, they changed the industry. Scott Hall is one of the best, and we don't even think about it this way, but he's one of the best big men that's ever lived. The guy was like 6'6". He was one of the greatest workers in the industry. Incredible characters, regardless of Razor Ramon, Scott Hall. He just always entertained. His finisher is one of the most iconic of all time. I used to do that to my brother in the pool all the time when we were kids growing up. So like, yeah, Scott Hall is arguably one of the most influential wrestlers in history. His run in the Click and NWO are, you know, stuff of legend. And I definitely miss him. I'm sure there are a lot of people who knew him way more than we did, who miss him way more than we do. But yeah, one of the best of all time.
I mean, look, he was a tortured soul. There's no, you have to acknowledge that part of it too, and self-destructive and a lot that went with the baggage. But you want to remember him for the better moments, and I guess the Hall of Fame speech to me, the fact that he got to have that moment after all of the drug problems that he had, alcohol problems that he had, to be able to get up on stage and say the hard work pays off, dreams come true, bad times don't last, but bad guys do. You know, I am glad he got that send-off. And I guess that works as a send-off for us. But I thought there was a little bit of a parallel there to, you know, some of the energy and the restore the feeling that Will Ospreay had mentioned. It's Needle Wrestling.